Have you ever been scrolling through your phone, just checking the news or social media, and then suddenly you see a headline that makes you stop in your tracks? The kind of headline that makes your heart sink for a second because it feels so shocking, so unexpected, that you have to read it twice to believe it? That's exactly what happened when the news broke that Kseniya Alexandrova, a former Miss Universe finalist, had passed away. And the part that makes it even harder to process? She was only 30 years old. Think about that for a second. 30 years old. That's the age when most people are just getting started with so many parts of life. Some are finishing school. Some are building careers. Others are starting families or figuring out who they are. It's that point in life where things feel like they're just beginning, when there's still so much time to explore, dream, and grow. And yet, for Kseniya, all of that was suddenly cut short. It's the kind of story that makes you pause and ask questions. How could this happen? What exactly went wrong? And maybe the biggest question of all, who was she beyond the crown and the spotlight? Because when you hear the name Miss Universe finalist, you probably think of someone glamorous, always smiling, walking down runways in beautiful gowns. And while that was part of her story, there was so much more to her life than the stage lights and the pageant world. So in this video, we're going to talk about Kseniya Alexandrova's journey. We'll look at how she became who she was, what made her stand out in the world of pageants, and what we know about the heartbreaking circumstances of her passing. But more than that, I want to take a step back with you and think about what her story really means. Because this isn't just about one person in the spotlight. It's also about the reminder that no matter how beautiful or successful someone might look on the outside, we never really know what they might be going through on the inside. Now let's go back to the beginning. Kseniya Alexandrova wasn't just a face you saw on posters or in magazines. She was a daughter, a friend, and for many people, an inspiration. Born in Russia, she grew up like so many others, but she had this spark about her. You know how some people just light up a room when they walk in? They don't even have to try, it's just who they are. Kseniya had that presence. She had that combination of beauty, confidence, and warmth that drew people in. As she grew older, she decided to step into the world of modeling. And as you can imagine, it wasn't easy. The fashion and beauty industry is one of the toughest out there. But Kseniya pushed forward. She worked hard, built her career, and eventually, she landed a spot in one of the biggest stages anyone in her field could dream of. Miss Universe. Now, if you don't really follow pageants, you might think, okay, it's just a beauty contest. But that's not really what it is. Competing in Miss Universe is about so much more. It's about being able to represent your country on an international stage. It's about poise, intelligence, and the ability to speak with confidence. It's about how you carry yourself, how you handle pressure, and how you connect with people. And Kseniya did all of that with grace. She wasn't just someone walking in high heels on a stage. She was someone who embodied confidence and elegance. She showed that beauty is also about character, about the way you treat others, and about the way you hold yourself in moments of both joy and stress. That's what made her stand out. But here's the thing, and this is where life reminds us how complex it can be. Behind the lights, behind the glamorous dresses and the smiling photos, there were also challenges. Friends and people close to her have shared that Kseniya sometimes struggled with the pressure that came with fame. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Think about it, how many times have we seen celebrities or public figures who look like they're living the dream, when in reality they're carrying invisible battles? We scroll past their photos on Instagram, we see their interviews, and everything looks perfect. But behind the scenes, there are insecurities, pressures, and struggles we never get to see. Kseniya's life wasn't an exception. The news of her passing came suddenly. Reports confirmed that she had died at only 30 years old. And while the details are still unfolding, what is clear is the deep shock it left behind. The modeling and pageant community was heartbroken. Her fans, her friends, people who had followed her career, all of them were left with so many questions. And even though headlines shared the news quickly, the weight of it hit much slower. It's not easy to accept that someone so young, so full of life, could be gone in an instant. Now, I want to pause here for a moment, because this is where her story opens up a bigger conversation, one that we often don't talk about enough. Mental health in the modeling and entertainment industry. You see, experts have been warning about this for years. When your career is built on how you look, how you present yourself, and how others judge you, it can take a serious toll. The pressure to stay perfect. The constant comparisons. The competition. The fear of not being good enough. It doesn't just affect the body, it affects the mind. One psychologist explained it in a way that really stuck with me. She said, when someone is constantly judged by their appearance, it can slowly chip away at their sense of self. And when you think about it, that's true not just for models, but for so many of us. Even if you're not on a stage like Kseniya, scrolling through social media can sometimes make you feel the same way. You see people who seem to have the perfect life, the perfect body, the perfect career. And if you're not careful, you start comparing yourself, and that can hurt your confidence without you even realizing it. Kseniya's passing, as tragic as it is, highlights this bigger truth. That the people who seem to have it all together, the ones who shine the brightest in public, might still be the ones struggling the most in private. And that's why it's so important to check in on the people around us. Even the ones who seem fine. Even the ones who seem happy. Because sometimes the brightest smiles can hide the deepest pain. And that's the part of Kseniya's story that I think will stay with so many people. Yes, she was beautiful. Yes, she was successful. Yes, she represented her country on one of the biggest stages in the world. But she was also human. She had struggles, just like anyone else. And that's what makes her story both inspiring and heartbreaking. So now I want to bring this to you. When you hear about Kseniya Alexandrova's passing, what's the first thought that comes to your mind? Do you think the pressures of fame play a bigger role than most of us realize? Or do you think it's something else? I'd love to know your thoughts. Share them in the comments, because conversations like this matter. They remind us that behind every headline is a real person with a real story. And if this video gave you something to think about, I'd love it if you could give it a like. Share it with someone who might need to hear this message. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future stories like this one. Because at the end of the day, these aren't just stories about public figures. They're reminders of what it means to be human, to face challenges, and to support each other along the way. Kseniya Alexandrova's life may have been cut short, but her story continues to remind us of the importance of kindness, compassion, and looking beyond the surface.